We're going live. Jana, we're talking about how to market and sell before you have clients today. And this is really an area of expertise for you.
Yeah, I feel like a lot of people in my audience, I don't know if struggle with this is maybe a little too strong a word. Like, I don't want to put words in their mouth and be like, you all struggle with this, but I feel like it's a very present thought for a lot of people. And I work with a lot of people who are like experts in their field and have been doing work in their field, whether it's in like an academic setting or a clinical setting or things like that for a long time. But they are like turning their business into an online business, or they're taking their expertise and actually for the first time having to go out and find clients with what like turn it into marketing, like before they had clients coming to them because they weren't the ones that were responsible for the marketing kind of thing. So I think a lot of those people, they don't always have like really obvious like client results case studies that are specific to this offer that they're currently working on marketing and selling. So like a lot of coaches and course creators too, and people who are packaging up their expertise in like a new way. Um, and I think this like not having a clear like result story or case study or combination of those or testimonials in the beginning when you're first starting, it really gets a lot of people like kind of in their head and keeps
Hmm.
them from creating what they need to get visible. So I think it's really important to like to talk about it and talk about whether it's okay to market and sell before you've had clients in
Yeah.
this current iteration of your business and also how to do it. So
I
yeah.
feel like even in business 8 years, I have the membership. I've got lots of clients. Have clients that have been with me for years and years.
Hmm.
Um, I still feel like I don't have adequate results or case studies. So I feel like maybe this is a conversation that's actually good for all of us. How do you
Yeah.
actually dig into this? So I think you're going to
Hmm.
talk a bit about that today. Um, is it possible and ethical to write marketing and sales messages and sell before you have those client results and case studies? I think that's a
Yeah.
lingering question in the back of your mind, especially
Yeah.
in my mind, as you get started selling maybe a new offer. Jana, I just started selling a new offer this year for
Mm.
writing blog content for clients.
That's a great example because you have so much marketing experience. But if someone, like in your brain, you're probably worried that someone's going to say to you, like, oh, who's the last client you did this for and what were their results? And you're going to be like, it takes a minute to think about like what the work you've done before with all of your Pinterest clients and all of your marketing clients, like which pieces of that are like the most relevant to like this new offer, right? Does that resonate?
For sure. Yeah.
Hmm.
And I have other clients that have come to me asking me about this very thing. And now that I have a client that I'm working with on it, I feel a little bit more comfortable saying, yeah, I have a
Hmm.
client that I'm working on this with, and this is what we do. And I think, and tell me if I'm wrong, especially right now, the thing that I'm focusing on the most, because we just started publishing blogs in July. So we've published blogs July and now into August. So really only like 6 weeks.
Hmm.
I don't have a lot of Google SEO results to show for that,
It takes
but
a
I
while.
have
Hmm.
client emails saying, oh my gosh, these blogs are so fantastic. I'm so excited that we're getting Christmas content out already. The
Yeah.
client's happy,
Yeah.
but we don't have like hard data to rely on.
Yeah. Yeah. And honestly, I think that's a whole other conversation. We could have it for sure. It might even be something that we bring a guest on for. My friend Jocelyn, for example, is just like an absolute expert on like case studies and how to use them in
Mm,
your business and like how to dig into what you are seeing from your clients to create the case studies. Because a lot of times I think we get in our head so much we don't think the results are good enough, or we are kind of forgetting that a lot of those like results that happen along the way that are results to the big result that we're
mhm.
selling in our promise are also big wins for our clients. But again, I think that's a different conversation. What I'm really interested in kind of like digging into today is like when you're first starting, it's like that chicken and the egg situation where like you really don't have a lot of results yet,
Yeah.
or testimonials for this offer or that kind of thing. But at the same time, you have to market because, we need clients to get case studies and results. So like I said in an email recently, like, you do need clients to get case studies and results, but you don't need case studies and results to get clients.
Yeah.
And the reason I said that is because I think some people think it's like a vicious cycle or like a chicken and the egg that's like unsurmountable, and it's not. Because there are other things you can do in your marketing to, in the beginning, make up for the fact that you don't necessarily have those case studies or testimonials yet. And don't get me wrong, like they're powerful. And once you have them, you can definitely use them in your marketing, but you don't have to wait until you have them to do your marketing.
Mm,
Um, and the main reason I think that that's the case, and we can dig into this a little bit more because there's a lot to talk about, but is really, for me, it comes down to what everything comes down to for me, which is my 9 and 2 content pillar system that I teach inside of high leverage content. And when I look at that pillar system, the light goes on for me when I say this to people because so there's one pillar in that pillar system that does revolve around client results. And in order to really like do that pillar well, you'll have to get to the point where you have client results to show. But here's the thing, like there's 8 other pillars.
yeah.
There's 8 other ways to market. And so there's 8 other like lenses to talk about what you do through. And so what I think you do in the beginning when you don't have a lot of case studies and testimonials and things like that yet, and actually you'll keep doing this because it's still an important part of your marketing, you simply lean more on the other parts of your expertise and your thought leadership. You really like take apart and examine the different things that you've done experience-wise, the different things that you know are true. Really, this comes down to like what I call again, like the things that people need to learn and hear and understand more deeply to be ready to buy. Like you look at what those are and you dig deeply and show your expertise and your thought leadership around those things
Yeah.
until, well, not even until, but then you get to the point where you have the case studies and you can use those in addition to these 8 other things, that people need to learn and hear and understand more deeply to be ready to buy. So it's only like one part of the picture, and it's not even half or 3/4 or anything like that. You know what I mean? It's just one of, in my world, it's whatever 8 out of 9 is for percentage wise. It's like a little less than 10%, right? No, a little more than 10%.
Mm.
So I think that's where this idea for me, really comes in. So
I think this conversation is actually going to be good for my community of Pinterest VAs to
yeah.
listen to. So what else? What if
Hmm.
we're not focusing on results and we're focusing more on thought leadership, then how do we begin developing thought leadership? I know one thing that comes up in my community a lot, because I teach Pinterest VAs, and some of my Pinterest VAs have gone on to create their own blogs or YouTube channels or products or whatever.
Hmm.
And I see their products pop up and they are similar to mine, but there's only so many things you can do when you're creating workflows and things like that. So
Hmm.
I always look at them and I know that they're worried that I'm going to see them and be like, oh, she ripped me off. And I'm never thinking that. I'm always so proud of them for coming up with their own iteration, their own product that maybe
Hmm.
they did generate an idea from mine. But at the end of the day, like
They made it their
it's
own.
yours now because you took
Hmm.
it, you created something completely different out of it and it's now morphed into something else.
Hmm.
So, and the same with like the content that they learn in my membership. They often tell me like, I'm so afraid to teach Pinterest because I don't want it to seem like I'm just ripping you off. So
Oh,
where does
hmm.
that come in for thought leadership?
Oh yeah, that's interesting. I mean, one of my first thoughts with that is like just really making sure that you are taking the time to think your own thoughts and develop
Mhm,
your own thoughts. And really that actually just takes time. So
mhm.
I think what happens a lot of time is like people are so busy all the time and they have so
Yeah,
much packed into their day and they're taking on so many clients and they're balancing their work and home life and whatnot, that they're not taking time to actually sit down and think their own thoughts and think, okay, like what part in this case, right, of like what Heather talks about, do I think is true? And what parts does she talk about that I actually, in my experience, think is maybe not true or is a little different for
mhm,
me or is a little different in my niche, right? Because a lot of
yeah,
times the things that you teach for your audience might be different if that Pinterest manager's audience is mostly TPT sellers, then it's like a whole
yeah,
nother ball game or something, right? So for me, I think it comes down to carving time out to think and really like externalize your thought leadership. And that can happen through like, journaling. It can happen through a weekly session where you like have a date with yourself to do customer research, and extend that customer research into like, okay, here's what I'm seeing their problems are. How do I solve their problems? As opposed to just like, what is Heather saying? I'm just going to say that, right? You know what I mean? Like, how do
Yeah.
I, if that were my client that I'm reading about her problem in a Facebook group or whatever, how would I solve that problem? Um, in HLC, I feel like all roads lead to high leverage
They
content.
do.
But this is a good practice to have, by the way, just to be a little self-reflexive for a minute. To really believe in your offer, to think about all the different ways that your offer, in this case, my offer, high leverage content solves problems.
Yeah.
I think that when you do high leverage content, when people come into my course and they've now invested some money in this and they have like this, now they're like, okay, I paid for this thing. I need to come in and set aside a couple hours a week to implement what I'm learning, to like sit down and watch, take notes, and then implement, because there's parts of my course that are more learning and then there's parts
Yeah.
that are doing. I think that's what I'm talking about. It's another way to carve time out or make space or hold space really for that, for your own deep thinking. And when you're forced, in the best way possible, like I do force my students in the best way possible inside HLC to sit down and like organize your thoughts into pillars and think about what problems you solve and think about what your audience is thinking that might come up when you're explaining, why they're getting stuck and things like that. That's where you start to see how what you do and how you think and your approach to things is actually different than your mentors.
Yeah.
Not entirely different, but it's different in some ways. It really is. It's always going to be, as long as you take the time to do that out of your busy schedule. So
And that's
that's how
something
I
I
feel about
always
it.
tell. Yeah, I think you make the same point that I always make to my students. And I've told them this in lives that there's replays available that people could actually go back and listen to me say this is
Mhm.
you're implementing what I'm teaching you and you're seeing results on the other side of it. So now what you're going to do is you're going to take the expertise that you're getting from your results. I didn't work
Mhm.
on that client. That's not my account.
Right.
I don't know what you're doing differently that I might do in a completely different way. But now
Yep.
you kind of have this set of data and these results that you have for this client, and you
Mhm.
can speak to that. And that is your expertise that you can stand on because you did that.
Right. Right. But before you have that data, I can understand. I see it all the time. I see people, some Pinterest managers that I know, and other um, service providers and coaches as well, get stuck because they see people on social media saying that, it's not ethical to be selling something when you don't have testimonials or case studies yet. Or they enroll in a program, let's say, for example, I've seen this before too. People come to me in high leverage content and they're like, oh, before I tried this other marketing like course or group program or something, but when I went in there, they just assumed that I already had all these client results, and I felt like I couldn't implement what I was learning because they just kept saying, go back to your client results. You know what I mean? Like,
Hmm.
put a case study here. Like, you don't, like this email or this blog post is incomplete unless you put a case study from one of your clients in it. And so when I was creating HLC, I was really careful to acknowledge the fact that my audience, my people, again, are usually very experienced and knowledgeable, but don't always have at least what they consider to be like case studies or testimonials yet to put
Hmm.
into this marketing content. And in fact, they're coming to me to learn how to market so that they can get to the point where they have those case studies. You know what I mean? So
Yeah.
I think that's where people like that tend to get like a little bit stuck. So no matter what you're hearing
Yeah.
from very loud voices in the online business community, you don't need case studies to get your first few clients. But you will need clients to get the case studies. So like that kind of like says it all to me. Like, get in there, do the marketing work, focus on those other 8 ways to talk about your offers, and get those clients with that content. Um, and this brings up something you and I have talked about before, Heather. Maybe you're thinking what I'm thinking, just to like make sure we're being clear about who we're talking to and who we're not. Do you know what I'm talking about?
I think I do.
Yeah.
Lead the horse to water, Jana, and I'll confirm.
Yeah, I mean, as I was saying that, I wanted to make sure everyone understands too that like I think that one of the reasons why these voices have gotten louder, saying like you can't teach something unless you know it yourself and blah blah blah. or unless you have testimonials, or case studies from your own personal work and experience and whatnot. One of the reasons I think those voices have gotten louder is because of this whole master resale rights thing that has
Mhm.
sprouted up over the last year. Is it a year
Yeah.
basically? And I just
It's
want to
been a
be
little
clear.
longer. It's been a couple years, but it's only been about a year since it really went viral.
Okay, that's not what we're talking about here. The difference
Right.
is like that's people who are selling something that does not come from their own experience, does not come from their own thought leadership.
Mhm.
It's not something they even created themselves in their with their own brains. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
That's not what I'm talking about. I'm talking about people who are experts in on some level, whether that means, again, they have that experience in their past lives, clinical, academic settings, whatever. Or sometimes this shows up where coaches have gotten results for themselves in a
Mhm.
really big way, and now they want to show other people what they learned the hard way. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
That's not what we're talking about when we're talking about that. Like MMR is or MRR or whatever is a totally different. That's We're not talking to the MRR folks here today.
No, we love monthly recurring revenue, but we're not huge fans of master resale rights.
Yes,
Now,
yes.
I
It's really too bad that those are the same acronyms, isn't it?
I know I
Yeah.
have I'm a people pleaser, Jana, and I have a bit of a soft spot for people who do actually want to learn and do actually want to make an income online and they want to
Of
make
course.
their
Yep.
own products to sell after taking that course. And
Yep.
I have to admit, I've had far too many of them come to me saying that what they're learning in that container just doesn't work for them.
Yep. Yeah.
There's a lot
Yeah.
missing, and there's a lot more that you probably are going to need to learn. And look, not all of us entrepreneurs online that are selling courses or coaching or anything have all the answers.
Yeah.
That's just natural. I mean, you go to college for 4 years and you're still not going to learn everything in that program that you're going to need on the job. And I think a lot of that comes from just doing the work. So as you do land clients in whatever manner that happens, taking what you are learning with doing that work with them, building your authority, building your thought leadership off of those experiences
Mhm.
it's ultimately going to help you to better sell and land more clients down the road.
Yes. Yep.
This whole process, none of this is anything that I ever like consciously thought about over the
Hmm.
last 8 years, Jana. As we start to have these conversations here on YouTube about these things, they really help me to become a better leader in my own community because it's challenging me to have conversations or, you know, sessions with myself and
Yep.
developing even deeper thought leadership or, things that I like or don't like or things that I
Hmm.
want to talk about or not want to talk about. And, my own methods have grown. And
Hmm.
yeah, it's
Yeah. It's
even just
interesting
having
because,
conversations like these with your business friends, I think is
right.
really good.
That's what I was going to say. I was going to say we do these lives to help other people,
Yeah.
and to, like, to be visible and share our ideas and thoughts and whatnot. Oh, we should check the chat too to see if there's any questions or
Mm,
anybody joining us. Speaking of the other people that listen, um, but because I know sometimes we forget to do that. But I think that, like you said, this hour every week, most weeks anyway, that we talk about these things. Sometimes we get really like granular and be like, here are the 5 things you need to do, steps
yeah.
to, write a bio for Pinterest or whatever. But some of these more like the conversations like these that are like go a little deeper are for us like part of our professional development, part of our like thought expansion. So it's kind of a win-win-win. But yeah, I think that what you were saying, something about, I forget why I was thinking this, but I just want anyone who's watching to know. Oh, I know you're talking about like being a better, coach and being a better, I know I think you're a coach. We're all coaches in some ways. Um, I like when I first started high leverage content, about a year ago.
About a year.
Yeah, I didn't have case studies for high leverage content yet. I
Yeah.
mean, you could say I kind of did because I was using the system with Kay, my client, and for my own business. And I had had a
Mhm.
few clients here and there who, over the years, in addition to their Pinterest management, wanted me to help with other things like content. So I would get in there and do a strategy for them and sometimes execute that strategy.
Yeah.
But I wasn't able to really say, like, I've had students come through and watch these videos and implement this on their own with a little bit of support for me and get results, right? now I have that, and those
Yeah.
results are growing all the time. But I just want to let people know who are watching that there are students inside of HLC, and this is kind of meta, but who have brand new offers
Yeah.
that they've never offered before, who are writing 8 types of content, and they know when they have case studies, they're going to write that 9th type of content too that I teach about. And they are making sales and getting clients with 8. Like those 8 are powerful on their own, and they will convert on their own before you have clients.
Yeah.
So it's so important that people know, whether you follow my system or a different system or whatever, that like you can get clients without having those client case studies. I know I feel like I'm harping on this, but I just think it's really important from a mindset perspective for people to not get stuck on that. Because I see people get stuck on it and like never get unstuck basically, and like give up essentially. So,
I
okay,
think
I'm
one
gonna
of
step off the soapbox.
I think one of the conversations around why people get stuck on this, Jana, and tell me if you have seen this, have heard this, feel this. Sorry. One of the things, one of the reasons why people get stuck is because they don't want to look like or seem like a fraud. The reason I
Hmm.
say this is because I've seen conversations on
Yep.
threads, I've seen conversations in YouTube videos and on podcasts where oftentimes newer entrepreneurs that are becoming service providers or, creating digital products or whatever are shamed because they don't actually
Yes.
have the expertise to teach that topic. Now, I will
Right.
say I do have some thoughts on people coming out if they've only had, if you only have results one time for your own business in this one niche and you're trying to teach 27 other niches how to do the thing that you're doing, but you have no proven results, I think you need to be honest about that. So if you want to
Always.
teach on it, but I think you should
Always.
be honest about where you're coming from.
Yep. So for example, if you're a Pinterest manager and you've gotten results for your own account as a service provider, and you've gotten results for like one client who's a brand strategist,
Mhm.
you wouldn't want to be dishonest and say that you've gotten results for people who are Etsy sellers and people who
Yeah.
are, or even, right, like, or who are now, but I don't think that that means that you can't do your research and learn and
Yeah.
share what you know with other people. You just have to make sure you're being clear that you're not teaching something from the perspective of someone who has, helped Etsy sellers increase sales with Pinterest. Like that's not who you are yet. You know what I mean? But
Yeah.
I do think you can still share what you know and comment on people's threads who are Etsy sellers with some basic tips. I'll
Mhm.
do that often. Like if someone tags me, I'll say like, I work mostly with coaches and service providers. So like this isn't exactly my wheelhouse, but here's what I know about Pinterest keywords.
Yeah.
Maybe this will help you. You know what I mean? Like that's an example of being like honest about what experience you have and like what you don't, but still helping people.
Yeah,
Right.
and I just want to be really clear that the example I brought forth is mostly people who are freelancers in some way and they are looking to sell courses. Now, what we're talking about in the conversation we're having in this vein today is service providers who are providing services,
Yeah, and it is different. You're right. There's
and
some
it's
differences
different.
there.
Yeah. But I think that
Yeah.
could be a reason why people get stuck is because they are seeing these conversations
Yeah.
had and they are hearing from people who are very loud that
Yep.
you're not an expert because you've only done this one time and you shouldn't be
Right.
coaching on that or and while I agree with some of those thoughts, I don't think it should stop you from sharing what you do
But
know.
exactly. You just again, it's about how you position it. And no one's encouraging. I'm not encouraging, you're not encouraging. Obviously, no, we're not here to encourage you to lie or embellish or anything like that. There is a way to position the expertise that you do have, which is rich and it's a lot. Anyone who's listening is we know you know a lot, in a way that is helpful for people, but also doesn't mislead them, right? So
Yeah.
yeah, 100%. But I agree with you. And Threads is an interesting place because I don't know about you, but I feel like in Threads, I'm having conversations and seeing posts and stuff from people, a lot of people who are more advanced in business, which for people who are newer in business, if they get into that corner of Threads is great because then you see all these people that you can kind of model from
Hmm.
and you see what's possible. And there's something really powerful about that. But yeah, one of the drawbacks is that sometimes those voices can be a little bit, not everyone, obviously, but there are moments where I think newer people do feel a little bit of like shame, you know, around like, oh, who am I to like be teaching this or trying to monetize this when I have 2 years experience and that woman has, you know, 11 or something like that. Um,
I have a
so, you
thought
know,
on
and the
that.
answer is like like your expertise is still valid. Your lived experience is different. Like you still get to you still get to take up space in this space as long as you do it in a way that's like ethical and not misleading people. Go ahead.
I
What
have
are
a
your
thought
thoughts?
on that. So, one of the conversations that's been had for probably 6 or so months, is a really big person in the entrepreneurship space that sells a Pinterest course.
Mm,
And this person doesn't do their own
gotcha.
Pinterest anymore. They don't like, they're not, I wouldn't build them as an expert in this,
Right.
in that world. So when you are a person that is a freelancer, like or a virtual assistant or however, whatever you call yourself,
Mhm.
and you're a few years into business, you might actually have an advantage over these celebrity entrepreneurs who are selling things and teaching on things that they're not even close to anymore.
Mhm. Yeah,
You're on the
100%.
ground, you're doing the work, you're doing things that are probably
Current.
more closely aligned to what is actually accurate on the platform,
Mhm.
um, or in the space that you're doing marketing or whatever
Yep.
service you're doing now, today.
Yep.
So, oh, you should also consider that.
Right. And even us, like there's a lot of Pinterest managers and Pinterest strategists and VAs who have followed you and me over the years separately and together because we've been creating content now together for, I don't know, is it like
Years.
5 years or something like that? 4 years, something.
So long.
I mean, we started
2021 or
Clubhouse
something?
during the pandemic. It had to be 2020 during the pandemic. So,
I think I joined December 2020 and we started
okay.
Clubhouse in January of 21.
2, 3, yeah. So it's been a while. Anyway, so
Wow.
people who follow us together separately, both who look up to us. But I'll be honest, like I have moments where I realize that those people who follow us and look up to us, who are currently managing Pinterest clients, they know more than I do because they know what's working right now, you know,
Mhm.
and they know, um, more of those like day to day, like you said, like operational and tech things and exactly
Yeah.
what's going on in the platform right now. Whereas I am a marketing mind and I have, years of experience seeing the arc of Pinterest. So I know what things change and what things don't. And I
Yeah.
also know like what parts of human psychology when it comes to Pinterest marketing don't change. And I use that a lot of that experience I have in what I teach. But if you ask me right now, like, are you able to like, tag a product in a pin of yours that someone else saved to their board, or something like that? I don't know. I'd have to either ask Heather and she might have to ask one of her, like, right? Sometimes you don't know what you don't know anymore.
Yeah.
So yeah, totally.
Yeah. Okay, Jana, let's bring this around. So if we don't have case studies, if we don't have testimonials, if we don't have data, then how do you know what to put
Mhm.
into your content, whether it's on
Yeah.
social media, on your blog, on your YouTube, on your podcast?
Yep. So you focus more on your expertise content. You focus on some how-tos, not all how-tos, because we never
Yeah.
want to be in a situation where we're just like the tips and tricks gal that nobody buys from, but some of
Yeah.
that. You focus on figuring out how you're different, what things you believe that other people don't, or what things people believe that you don't. You find out what you observe and you see what people are doing that you think they should be doing differently. These are the kinds of things that we identify and we write about in high leverage content. Those are the types of things that make up the 9 pillars that I teach. Again, only one of those pillars requires you to have client results. The other 8 are things that you can dig into and create without having had your first client yet.
Yeah. Those are great. And if you want to know more about each of those individual things, you should join High Leverage Content
Mhm.
because that's where the action is happening.
Sure. Yeah, come on in. The water is fine.
Come
I'm gonna
on
be
over.
yeah, so right now we're open for new students for a couple
Oh,
more
fantastic.
days actually. Well, just a couple more days. And then there's going to be a little bit of a hiatus while I work on some other things. I'm still serving clients in the back in like the students who are in the course, but we will be
Mhm.
closed for new students for a while. And then I will have a little bit of a period later on in the year where we're open for new students for a while, and then we'll close for the rest of the year.
Mhm.
So far, the whole 2024, I've had the cart open or the, new students have been able to come in. like any time. Um, but that's not going to be true for the rest of the year. So if someone's watching this like later on the replay or whatnot, because I know YouTube videos live on and on.
Hmm.
If we're not open at this moment and you want to come in, just join the wait list on the sales page when you get there
Yeah.
and get in when you can.
And Jana's going to put the link to that in the description after this video ends. I tried to put the links in last week and I didn't hit the save button, and Jana had to go back and do it for me.
Oh yeah, is that what happened? Is that what it was?
Yes. I had literally came back to my desk, so I was like, I swear I put that in there. So I went back to my desk and I opened
And
it
it was
up
like
and
open.
it
There
was
it was,
there
open.
in draft.
Ah,
So
gotcha.
Jana's the big sister here. Well, and we're going to be in Dallas
Sometimes.
together in September. So you obviously can't have the doors open, then be writing 8 emails a day or whatever, because we're going to be together.
Well, that's not true because I can pre-schedule all my emails and everything. Actually, I think I want to say I'll be launching during that time. But I'll have, emails all scheduled to go out for the launch. So anyway, yeah, whatever. But we are going to, I'm so excited. Heather and I are going to do some touristy things together.
I know.
And
The last couple of years, we've tried to get together a couple of times a year, at least once a year.
yeah, I guess we have, huh? We've accomplished that
Mhm.
pretty much.
Last
Yeah.
3 years, yeah. So next week we are chatting about Pinterest mistakes digital product sellers make. So
Starting
we're
our
coming
Pinterest
back.
mistakes series. I
We're
love
coming
that.
back to our Pinterest mistakes series, and this is going to happen for a few weeks with a scheduled break for September 11th because that is the week that we will be out of town. And uh, so we'll see you here next week for digital product seller mistakes on Pinterest.
See you then.
Any last thoughts, Jana?
I don't think so, other than the fact that this series that we have coming up for the next 4 weeks about mistakes, we always, when we talk about mistakes, we also tell you what to do instead. Don't worry. So
Yeah,
it's
we're
still
not going
still
to
good
rain on your
stuff.
parade.
Yeah. We won't like shame you without telling you what to do instead.
No, no, we're good about that. Okay, well, we'll see you back here next week at 9 a.m. Pacific Standard. No, 9 a.m. Pacific Daylight, 12 p.m. Eastern Daylight. Same place, same bat signal. We're chatting about Pinterest mistakes.
Yep.
Okay, see you then.
Bye.
Ooh, that was good.